Deshaun Watson will not be throwing in front of media this week at OTAs. And if you don't know why, have you been living under a rock? Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd, and I appreciate each and every one of you that make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd keeps growing. Join the everyday crowd. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So we got some video from Tuesday, OTAs, media not permitted. So anything that was released through the Cleveland Browns socials. And Deshaun Watson was out there throwing. They didn't, necessarily have to show us everything. Showed us something. Well, tease, if you will. But you saw Deshaun and you saw balls traveling, anywhere from probably 10 to 15 to 25 yards. Everything looked pretty good, looked crisp, and it controlled, probably certainly not a full speed environment yesterday with Deshaun Watson. As the Browns return to the field for OTAs on Wednesday, it seems to be the consensus and seems to be been announced that Deshaun Watson is not going to throw in front of the media, which will be present at Wednesday's OTAs. And look, it's you all know why. And there's plenty within the media and whatever publications, written, video, whatever it may be, that basically have the obituary piece written for Deshaun Watson and basically have it written to just go ahead and blast this thing away as, another Cleveland Browns epic failure. Whatever. If that's your agenda and you're not going to look things, through the scope of a day-to-day lens, that's on you. It's not the way I do things. It's certainly never the way I do things. But for Deshaun to throw yesterday with no media present and then to take the day off, first off in a rehab process after coming off the surgery that Deshaun did, which caused him to miss as much time as he did, it's 100% logical. You're not going to throw every day. You work your way back. You amp your way up. Even still, you look at the way a game week would work. He would play, for example, if the game is on a Sunday, he's going to play Sunday and throw Sunday. He's not going to throw Monday. He's not going to throw Tuesday. Wednesday, he's probably going to amp it up a little bit. Thursday, a little bit more. Friday, going to shut it down, most likely, because it's just going to be a walkthrough. He's not going to throw on Saturday. And then Sunday, he's going to go and obviously let it rip in game day. So he's going to be damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. That's just the way it works. And certainly, for his off field and all of that stuff, if you want to be the constant critic and, there will never be that phase of him that you can't get past, that's fine. But you can't let it carry over into what he's doing, playing the actual game nowadays. So, for why would he? Because, look, one ball goes awry. The crowd of, the crowd that is so against him just amps up and goes louder and louder and louder. For those like me who, hope that Deshaun Watson goes out there and plays the best he possibly can and returns to the form he did, with the Houston Texans in 2020, I want what's best for this franchise. I want to cover winning teams. I want to cover playoff games. God, I cut my right arm off. Well, I like my right arm. Left arm maybe. To get to cover the Cleveland Browns during a Super Bowl week. You still have Jameis Winston to get this team through drills. With the release of the quarterback the other day, that probably tells me that DTR is good to go. You certainly have Tyler Huntley, who has plenty of experience as well. It's not like it's, dwarfing anything this team wants to do as far as, getting, good work in OTAs. And the other thing is you do have 4 quarterbacks. So everybody's got to get some work. So the fact that you can have Deshaun throw one day, rest another, just works in your favor, that everybody gets, the opportunity that they need, for what OTAs are. And it's just getting out there and getting, for Jameis and Huntley, it's getting acclimated. Browns top, 4 of the top 5 wide receivers from last season to return this year. But you are working in a Jerry Jeudy and trying to have these guys develop a relationship with Jerry Jeudy. But Deshaun, it's the path, and it's what he's been on. And, there's these things are put out months ago. This stuff was put out, from when surgery was just finished. Our goal is within 1 month to be at this point. Our goal is within 2 months to be at this point. Then our goal is to be doing this. Then our goal is to be having him throw at 40%, then 60%, then 80%, then 100%. For Deshaun to even go out yesterday and get the work he did, I think it's good. Obviously, for him, you want to be back around your teammates. You want to be back working around with your teammates, getting comfortable. Number one, you're showing them, hey, I'm on the path of where I'm going to need to be for this team come September. Because I'm not sure Deshaun's actually going to play in August. Maybe a tad bit, cup of coffee here. I don't know. With only 3 preseason games, how much Deshaun's actually going to play over the summer. But he has to amp himself back up and get himself back ready to be, full throttle, most likely for training camp. And then, of course, September 8th, of course, for the opener against the Dallas Cowboys. But the contingency crowd that is just ready to just sit there and bury this. And look, they got the hole dug. They've already printed the tombstone. The only thing they're waiting for is to put the, basically date of death on this. It's getting a little long in the tooth. Our job in media as content creators is to take what we see and evaluate it. You're not supposed to have any foregone conclusions. You're not supposed to have, anything that you may believe in your heart and your soul about a certain player come out within your work. It is supposed to be an honest evaluation of what is in front of you and what you see each and every time you put your eyes on something Cleveland Browns related, or in this case, Deshaun Watson related. It's a difficult spot. And look, Deshaun certainly created this himself. There's no question about that. But the point of it is we're supposed to watch number 4 play and what his job is currently as quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, and we are supposed to evaluate it. So Deshaun throwing yesterday away from the media, and the Browns giving just enough of a taste through socials for us to see kind of, okay, obviously it looks like we're trending on the right way. But for him to throw in front of media, for those who have their, just preconceived notions of what they want or how they want this to work out, you're just going to have to ride it out. You're going to have to wait. And for most of y'all, you better pray it goes your way. Because if you're not doing your day-to-day work, you're going to have to amp it up. Because if Deshaun Watson comes through this year, a lot of you are actually going to have to do some work. And for a lot of you, it's the first time you've done a work in a long, long time. We're going to continue on Locked On Browns. We're going to talk about the quarterback. Probably should talk a little bit about the wide receivers. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Stick around. If you were somebody that goes to a lot of sporting events, concerts, theater, you've got to be careful where you get your tickets from, because not all these apps are on the up and up, which is why me and my family, we are a Game Time family. Killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guaranteed. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets for the NFL. We've now got the NFL schedule in our hands well over a week. I'm sure a lot of you are looking to see maybe the Dallas Cowboys. They don't come often. New York Giants, they certainly don't come to Cleveland often. Or that 3-game stretch where you get the Bengals, the Ravens, the Chargers. You can use Game Time to get yourself in the house to catch Cleveland Browns action. They have the Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the entire ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns continues. We appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, if you haven't joined by now, well, make a new plan. Stand, subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. So we discussed a little bit, certainly, about Mr. Deshaun Watson. And he threw Tuesday, no media present, will not throw Wednesday with media present. First off, when you're rehabbing, you don't go hard every day. So you take the day off after the day you work. But the Browns knew full well what they were doing by having Deshaun work on Tuesday with no media as opposed to Wednesday with media presence. Now you get to this wide receiver room, and I've gone on, and I even did I did a radio spot the other day with the guys on 97 the fan, 92.3 the fan in Columbus, and just talking about this group and where this group is, it was at. Then you add in Jerry Jeudy. You take what they did by only bringing in Jamari Thrash in the draft. You didn't really have a lot of room, so to spend your second round pick on a wide receiver who would maybe be wide receiver 4 at best for this team in 2024 probably wasn't the best use of draft capital. Same thing would apply to the third round pick that you used on Zach Zinter. But, we'll see, where is Amari Cooper? And, this is the thing, Amari Cooper, and it's amazing the career that Amari has had to this point, because Amari, he's been a very dinged up guy, with the Raiders, with the Cowboys. And we've certainly seen it at times with the Browns, and certainly last season, where there's a plethora of injuries coming back, with the scar tissue issue, with the groin / abdomen hernia, however you want to call it, or whatever it was actually described. Then, of course, as the season went on, it was, a hit he took, in the lower back. It was possible head injury, then the foot injury in the monster game against the Houston Texans, which caused him to sit out the final 2 regular season games. But make no mistake about Amari Cooper. And, pound for pound, one of the toughest guys that's played the wide receiver position, because he has been through a lot physically. But yet you look, and every year, the statistical production is there. This guy never misses as far as putting up the production. So for Amari, yes, getting a tad bit older into his career, not to the sunset just yet. So you have Amari, and is he still a true number 1? You look at what he did last year, you take out the fact that he missed those final 2 regular season games at that 1250 number, very easily could have been a number of 1,400 wide receiver 1 numbers. But doesn't it necessarily need to be a wide receiver 1 at this point of his career? And certainly the way this Cleveland Browns offense is built, and certainly the way this Cleveland Browns wide receiver room is built. He's got the biggest help he's had going into year 3 as far as somebody playing as a legit number 2 in Jerry Jeudy. There has not been in Amari's 2 years here a wide receiver. Donovan Peoples-Jones flirted with it. Don't get me wrong, I always was a DPJ guy. Donovan Peoples-Jones flirted with being that full-time 2. Jerry Jeudy is that full-time 2, will be that full-time 2. His numbers, and you look at what he did to this point in his career in Denver, averaging anywhere about 750 or so, a little bit more than that, per season in his time in Denver. Those numbers are going to get exploited. Those numbers are going to get exploded with Cleveland. There is just going to be so much attention to coverage when you have such a plethora of weapons on the field with Amari, certainly with Jeudy, certainly with David Njoku, Elijah Moore, and whether it's a Jerome Ford or a Naheem Hines out of the backfield, to extremely capable and solid receiving backs. There is no way to dwarf coverage. There is no way for a defense to say we're going to take so-and-so away. So one-on-ones, and you look over the last few seasons, who are the top names in 25-yard plus receptions within the NFL. Pretty elite group, chunk plays, certainly a huge, huge friend to any offense. Amari Cooper is on that list, and Mr. Jerry Jeudy very high up on that list as well. It was just a time for a change of scenery for Jerry Jeudy. All that time spent in Denver with mediocre quarterback play. And this is always one of my biggest things with wide receivers and drafting them high. I'm not against it, but it's, do you have the guy that is going to get this wide receiver that you put such a heavy investment into the true opportunities he needs? Malik Neighbors going to the New York Giants. Look, there were a lot of people trying to make the case for Malik Neighbors to be mentioned in the same breath as Marvin Harrison Jr. within this draft process. Marvin Harrison Jr. is now going to play with Kyler Murray. And although Kyler didn't play a lot last season, he played pretty well. And now you add in who everybody thinks is just going to be a dominant NFL player at Marvin Harrison Jr. And they're right, by the way. Now you look at where Malik Neighbors is with Daniel Jones. And, oh, was the other one. Oh, well, they have Drew Lock too. Is either one of those things supposed to get the Malik Neighbors hype and stock rising? No, absolutely not. So I know it seems, a cop out. I know it seems an excuse, but for a wide receiver, you're probably only as good as what you got throwing to you. You look at what the Bills did, moved on from Stephon Diggs. They're going to elevate Shakir, drafted Keon Coleman. Heck, maybe even Chase Claypool realizes this is my last moment in the NFL. I better shut up and let Josh Allen get me back to being a player that is no longer a punchline with the NFL, a player in the NFL that people talk about as a real performer. Now you look at Elijah, certainly you look at Cedric Tillman, you look at David Bell. Elijah, a couple of big moments last season. David Bell, that huge touchdown against the Jacksonville Jaguars, not to mention closed out the regular season with a 2-touchdown performance against the Cincinnati Bengals, had 7 receptions in the playoff game. Tillman, the best game was the Denver game, coincidentally or not. What do we say? You play with somebody, that can get you the rock. Yeah. Denver game, Cedric Tillman had his best game as a pro with his old high school teammate, DTR, Dominic Thompson Rogers. So for GTR, it was just a special moment for those two. And now you look, Jamari Thrash, you look at everybody else there. Michael Woods, Jamari Thrash just drafted. Michael Woods coming back from the Achilles. Kind of did some nice things his rookie year. That all fell apart for him, unfortunately, while training for his second year. They just made an interesting signing yesterday in Matt Landers. Matt Landers was an undrafted free agent in 2023 out of Arkansas, had spent some time with the Georgia Bulldogs, spent 1 year up at Toledo. Probably some of you Ohio guys remember that. And then had that extra COVID year, decided to take his talents down to Arkansas, caught 40 passes, had 4 100-yard games, went to the combine, jumped well at 6'4", 200 pounds, ran a 4.37 flat 40. Again, we thought he was possibly a guy that Browns would have some interest in. Really good sized wide receiver. 6'4", legit, every inch of it, long arms, all of it, checks out, checks the boxes. So I'm not saying Matt Landers is going to come in here and push anybody, and Matt Landers could come in here and maybe work his way towards a practice squad. 6'4", 200, 4.37. This could be the opposite of Anthony Schwartz, the Smurf speed guy. Now maybe you're going to try the big speed guy. So, an interesting signing that they brought in. But this wide receiver group is going to be ready to go. And for these guys were here last year, whether it was Amari, whether it was Elijah, David Njoku, all these guys within that. The fact that they found a way to contribute each and every week, where this Browns even went up to 5 starting quarterbacks over 17 games. It's a lot to be said for what that wide receiver room did last year. You need Deshaun on the field. You need Deshaun on the field as much as possible. And all of this stuff will gel. I guarantee it. Continuing on, your latest Locked On Browns, your host, Jeff Floyd. Nobody go anywhere. It's winner take all time in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With Browns OTAs underway, we're going to talk about some players I have my eye on this week, next week, of course, and going further. I am Jeff Floyd. Appreciate you all who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. Join the everyday crowd. Don't miss on anything. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. Now, with OTAs, obviously, there's a lot of pressure on some of these guys, and you look at one player, and I guess we'll go defense first here, but in my opinion, this is one of the biggest ones. Siaki Ika. Seen a couple still photos, obviously, of Siaka, and it looks like maybe the weight is in a better spot for Siaki. And, there's a lot of talk. Look, bigger isn't always better in the NFL. Quickness is what counts. You look at a man that just retired recently from the Los Angeles Rams, what he weighed, how he played in Aaron Donald, and most already basically anointing Aaron Donald as one of the greatest defensive tackles to ever grace the NFL. Bigger is not always better. Siaki Ika, look, Browns drafted 2 defensive tackles. They brought back 3. So you've got Tomlinson, You certainly, you brought back Maurice Hurst. You have Shelby Harris. You brought in Jefferson. You drafted Mike Hall Jr., who we know is going to make this roster. The rookie defensive tackle that you brought in from Cincinnati, who should have a legit shot as well to make this team. And of course, we're talking about Juwan Briggs. Sorry about slipping his name to Juwan. So Siaki Ika, in my opinion, is already in a bad spot, and it's going to take a monster OTA session for Siaki Ika to find a way onto this Browns 53. It's going to find a way. It's going to take a miraculous spot for him even to get to roster cutdowns. So Siaki Ika. Ronnie Hickman, look, this team, you're not going to get to the point where you're going to have 6 and 7 safeties playing like you did last year. You assume the injury, is going to work more in your favor. So Juan Thornhill, Delpit, McLeod, obviously all guaranteed time. DeAnthony Bell, he's 28 years old, is a time where, it's going to be an issue for him because, there's not much future and there's not going to be much improvement from DeAnthony Bell. Not saying what he didn't do last year was impressive and certainly held his own in his role. But Ronnie Hickman, the playoff game notwithstanding, but Ronnie Hickman was pretty clutch when this team needed him in that latter part of December. Huge, obviously, interception return for a touchdown against the New York Jets on Thursday Night Football. But you've got some guys, and this is where we'll put DeAnthony Bell. He's in a tough spot here, along with Justin Hardy and Tony Brown. These guys are all good special teams players, but there's no way you're keeping both Hardy and Brown. These guys are good special teams players, but the Browns' cornerback room overall is pretty damn deep. So you can't keep both of them. That's not going to happen. DeAnthony Bell is now in competition with these guys as well as far as roster spots. Look, you've got to keep linebackers. So, some of these guys are going to be battling against Mahmoud Diabates of the world for a roster spot, and it even is contingent basically on who can play special teams. But the Browns can't just say we're going to keep 3 linebackers because we have so many secondary players that we want to play on special teams. It just doesn't work that way. You've got to keep probably 5 linebackers, if not 6 linebackers on the active roster. And you've got JOK. Of course, you got Hicks. You certainly signed Bush and Fields, Diabate, all these other guys. It's going to be a logjam. It's going to be a real logjam for a lot of these guys. And just being a good special teams player is not going to be enough anymore. On the offensive side of the ball, I keep screaming about a tight end. Jordan Akins kind of shut me up yesterday with a beautiful reception. He was wearing number 88. So if anybody saw the video, Jameis Winston threw it. Number 88 caught it. Number 88 now is Jordan Akins. So look, I'm pulling for him. I would love for a massive improvement from last year, but I still want some help at that tight end position. Dante Foreman is going to have to just show early. Look, the Browns, with the uncertainty of Nick Chubb, the Browns understand that it could be a month, it could be 2 months. Heck, it could be longer before Nick Chubb finds his way to being a contributor for the Browns. So if it's not Dante Foreman or it's not the rookie undrafted running back Robbins out of BYU in OTAs, Browns are going to have to look hard at bringing somebody else that can come in here and help with Jerome Ford and Naheem Hines and have this team have a stable running game. You're going to look for marked improvement in the running game and the run blocking games from last year. Health is going to be part of it. Certainly new offensive line coach Andy Dickerson is going to be part of it. But I don't believe that running back room is done just yet. Dante Foreman has an opportunity to kind of quiet the masses if he can go out there and prove that he's going to be capable of 8 to 10 carries a game until we get number 24 returned back to this lineup. And then it's going to be Thrash, it's going to be Tillman, it's going to be Bell. These guys are all in the same spot. They're all basically fighting for number 4, because if it's not number 4, 5 and 6 probably ain't going to play that much. So it becomes a difficult spot here. And, for David Bell, he had a strong close of the season last year. Cedric Tillman, I will continue to say this, till I am short of breath. It was a really difficult spot to be in last year for Cedric Tillman. Every time you turned around, it was a new quarterback. Oh, it's Deshaun. Okay, it's not Deshaun. It's DTR. Oh, it's not DTR. It's PJ Walker. Oh, it's Deshaun. Oh, wait, it's PJ Walker. Oh, wait, it's DTR. Oh, wait, it's Joe Flacco. Oh, wait, it's Jeff Driscoll. It is not easy for a rookie quarterback to be getting worried about where he's supposed to line up. Does he have the right separation between either the tackle, the other receiver next to him? Is he on the line? Is he off the line? Is he reading coverage? Okay, am I a hot route? Oh my God, am I adjusting my route because of the coverage I see? And for the 5th quarterback that I have now worked with over a 9-week span, are we on the same page? It's just not easy. That's not the way the wide receiver position is supposed to be played. But these guys, along with the rookie Thrash, these guys are all battling it out. There are 3 wide receivers ahead of them, and those 3, that's not going to change. Moore, Coop, Judy, these guys are going to see the lion's share of the reps. So to get an opportunity, which is going to be slim for a wide receiver 4, Thrash, Tillman, Bell are all in this battle with it. They all kind of bring different things. Bell is kind of like your glue chain mover. Tillman, your bigger bodied guy. Thrash, probably maybe the quickest of them all. So certainly going to be interesting how these young wide receivers battle out for what is only really one legit spot as far as actually getting opportunities, as far as getting targets. So we've gotten to a lot here today. Certainly Deshaun not throwing in front of the media this week. And if you don't know why, stop kidding yourself. Certainly talked about the wide receiver room as a whole and players who need to start stepping it up in OTAs because it might be getting a little bit late, a little early for some of these guys. I am Jeff Lloyd, your host here at Locked On Browns. I appreciate you all for making the show your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, you're a bunch of filthy animals, but you're my filthy animals. Join the filthy animals. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.